What's up, everybody? Today we are going to be discussing the 15 things that home sellers must refuse. Now, look, I get it. Selling your home is a daunting process. The momentum, the excitement, it can all take you away. But if you forget your perspective and you say yes to things that you absolutely should not say yes to when selling your home, it could leave you in a very precarious situation, including losing money, losing time, losing resources, and also including losing the deal. So if you are a home seller thinking about selling your home, please listen up, because these 15 things that you must say no to when selling your home are going to help you achieve a successful transaction. I'm Shamika Fox, your Santa Cruz real estate expert. If you are getting value from this video, hit that like and subscribe button. If you are looking for a local Santa Cruz real estate expert, feel free to hit me up. Phone number is below, or fill out the form and I would be happy to schedule a consultation with you, no obligation consultation. If you are looking for a realtor in your area that's outside of the Santa Cruz area, fill out the form below and I will connect with you so that I can find a realtor that is a perfect match for you and what your needs are. So let's dive right in. The first thing I'm going to recommend that home sellers say no to is allowing people to just stop in their house and ask for a showing. You're going to have a sign in your yard. You're going to have your home marketed on the internet, so it is visible and available to the public. And sometimes people walking by think it is their God-given right to be able to see a home in person that is on the market. So they may do something like knock on your door, or you may be outside watering the garden and they might ask you for a home tour, which I get it. It's enticing. It's like, oh my gosh, this person might actually be interested in purchasing my home, especially right now when buyers are starting to have a bit more leverage in our market and sellers are starting to watch home prices around them come down. They're like, I found the buyer. This is an amazing situation. It must be meant to be. Here's the deal. Number one, we don't know if that home buyer is pre-qualified, pre-approved, has cash. We don't even know if they can afford your home. So you might just be wasting your time. Number two is when you allow somebody off the street who your realtor has not vetted come into your home, you are actually opening yourself up to security issues, safety issues, and just all around issues that might hinder your privacy and the safety of you living in your home while it's on the market. A person walking down the street, if they are truly a real buyer, will call their agent, or they will call the agent whose name is listed on the sign, and they will request a showing after they go through the proper steps to either provide proof of funds if it's a cash offer, or to get pre-approved prior to looking at homes. So, number one, just say no when somebody requests to come inside your home by either knocking on the door or approaching you because you are in the yard. Just say no. Number two, a buyer is very excited about your home and they want to make sure that their car or truck, or God forbid their RV or boat, fit in your garage. Just say no. I have seen this happen where a buyer gets really excited about purchasing their home. They want to make sure that the car or truck fits in the garage, and they drive in and they scratch up the side of the garage. They dent the sheetrock in the garage. They run over something that is valuable that's stored in the garage. And then the buyer goes away and they say, we didn't do any of that. And so now you are faced with fixing the damage that happened to your property because they deny having anything to do with it. You are stuck with dealing with re-preparing your home for sale, which I'm sure you've done an excellent job of. And now you're stuck repairing things, spending time, spending money, spending resources, fixing something that should never have been broken. Now, here's the thing. We have measuring tapes. We know how big things are. We can actually measure them with a measuring tape. You can look at a garage and you can see if a vehicle is going to fit in it. If a buyer asks you if they can park their truck, their car, their boat, their bus, or their RV in your garage, just say no. Just say no. No, no, no is an acceptable answer. Number three thing that I would suggest all sellers say no to is the request to bring a pet to the showing. Now, I get it. Some people are animal lovers and they have pets and they want to make sure that their pet is going to be comfortable at the new property. And so they want to show the pet the property. I would absolutely recommend you say no. If the pet all of a sudden is off leash and decides that they're wandering around the property and they are leaving poo bombs outside, inside, they pee on your carpet, they pee on your hardwood floor, which will ruin hardwood floors. This is a tremendous liability to the showability and the presentation of your home. So just say no. If the owner of the pet buys the house, chances are the pet is going to love living there. So just say no. No pets allowed. We don't want to have liability for other people's pets. We don't know what kind of pet owners other people are, if they're responsible, if they're going to keep an eye on it, or if they're going to let them roam off leash and then they're going to either scratch something up or dig a hole or break a fence or poo in the yard or in the house, God forbid. I was actually just recently showing a property, and this is a true story. It was the owner's pet. So you had to make an appointment so that they could remove all their pets from the property. And I think they had like 4 dogs or something like that. No judgment here. Like, you do you, your lifestyle is your lifestyle. But I went in to show the property, and the property was a no-shoe property. And so I took my shoes off at the front door and I was wandering around and I stepped in something wet. And it was in the dining room, which had been sectioned off specifically, I think, for the pets when they are home, because there was little water bowls and stuff in it. And I wish that the wet spot was by the water bowl because I would have felt a little bit more confident that it was water, but there was nothing else around. And so I stepped in what I believe was dog pee and got it on my foot, and it just kind of like dampened my impression of the property. So I would suggest no pets during showings. We don't want the liability. Just say no. Number 4, and this is a really big one, no modifications or work to be done prior to the close of escrow. I totally get it. A buyer's super excited. They're about to close on the property and they want to make sure that the property is how they want it so that they can move in immediately when they get their keys. Here's the problem. 1, we don't know which contractors they are hiring. So they could hire contractors that don't have liability insurance, that don't have workman's comp. Somebody gets hurt on your property. Guess what? That is your liability now. Also, there could be damage done to the property during the preemptive construction project. For example, and I know this is a big one, I get this request all the time, to tent or fumigate the property prior to the close of escrow, because it takes 3 days. You put these massive tents on the property, then the tents come off, it has to air out, and you can't enter the property until this process is all finished. Here's the deal though. I have had this happen and it was a nightmare and it actually ruined the deal, and you're that close to the finish line. A tent went on the property. The water spigot to a hose was knocked on in the on position, and the hose ended up flooding the house and ruining the floors. So now the tents come off and we can go back into the property to do the final verification of property condition right before you close escrow, and the floors are completely ruined. The house is wet because the water got knocked on. It was an accident. Clearly nobody meant to do that, but it did mean that the transaction got canceled and everybody was pissed. Excuse my language, but it was a really tricky situation. It was a hard lesson, and I don't like learning hard lessons the hard way. I would way rather somebody like me tell you, just don't do it. So just say no to any construction or any work that a buyer requests to do prior to the close of escrow. The other thing they could do is start changing things. We want to paint the house. You let them paint the house, and now they painted the house pink because that's what they like. You don't want a pink house that you have on the market, because chances are your buyer pool for pink houses is going to be quite small. Okay, so just say no. No preemptive construction projects or work to be done by buyers prior to the close of escrow. This one. Number 5, no early move-ins. I've had this request many times. It seems like the simplest and most innocent request. The sellers have already moved out. The buyer's contingencies are removed. We're just waiting for 1 week for the loan to fund and for us to be able to close. And the buyers have, I don't know, maybe relocated across the country and they don't want to spend money on a hotel or a rental for the interim. And they ask, can we please just move in a week early? Absolutely not. Just say no. There are no early move-ins. You don't know if they're going to damage the property. You don't know if they are going to get hurt on the property. And while you own the property, you are still the person responsible for any liability with regards to the property. That's damage, injuries, etc. We don't know if they're going to move in and then they're going to decide that they don't like the property anymore because they've spent some time there and now they want to cancel the escrow. There is too much liability to allow a buyer to move into your home prior to the close of escrow. So just say no to the request of early move-ins. Highly, highly do not recommend this. Okay, number 6. Now this is a hard one because feelings are going to get hurt. But just say no if your mother, your brother, your sister, your father, your best friend, or your cousin just got their real estate license and they want to be your realtor. I get it. It's so hard to say no to this one because you really want to help them out and you don't want to hurt their feelings. But if they just got licensed and they have no idea how to negotiate, how to market your property, or how to be a professional and successful realtor to be able to navigate the successful close from beginning to end, I highly, highly recommend that you say no to allowing your friends or relatives to be your realtor. The other thing that I see a lot is an out-of-area realtor listing a property, and in the comments below it will say something like realtor is related to seller, because you have to disclose that. And so then I see that this agent is down from LA somewhere, 8 hours away from Santa Cruz, and there's no lockbox on the property, there's no sign at the property, there's no open houses at the property, there's minimal marketing of the property, but the seller felt obligated to list it with their friend, brother, cousin, sister, relative, whatever, because they just got their license and they wanted to help them out, and they don't even live in the area, but they just wanted to help get a sale under their belt. So I would highly recommend that you just say no if a close friend or relative who has no experience wants to list and sell your home. The other thing that can be a little bit tricky is if you're getting a divorce and a close friend or relative wants to list your home. That's a tough place to be in. And I would actually, and I've lost deals because of this, friends getting divorced and they hire somebody else. And I have over 20 years of experience selling real estate in Santa Cruz. They wanted an unbiased representative that didn't have history of being in a relationship with them. And I completely respect it and I completely understand. So just be careful when you are hiring somebody that you are not clouded by the fact that you have a relationship with this person and you feel obligated to hire them. So just say no. Now, if this realtor is a true professional, they've been in the industry, they've had tried and true success, and you're able to vet them and see that they actually know what they are doing and you feel comfortable hiring them, that's another story. But just say no if it's a brand new agent and you just want to help them out because you feel bad about saying no to them. Just say no. Okay. Number 7, negotiating over personal property. I hate this one. You will start to see in the residential purchase agreement a section that notes all the things that should be included in the property. And generally speaking, those things are appliances, built-in wine fridges, EV chargers, stuff of that nature that would generally be considered real property because it's built in. After that section in the residential purchase agreement, there's a section that you can write anything in that you would like included or excluded from the sale. This part gets cloudy because now we're starting to negotiate personal property with real property, and we're making requests on the purchase agreement, which is where we are negotiating the real property purchase, and that should just stay separate. Just say no to personal property negotiations. Now, if you get to the end of the transaction or after a buyer has removed their contingencies and you want to discuss leaving a playhouse or a perfectly suited sofa that's meant for a living room or things of that nature, and a buyer has indicated interest in those items, you can then have that conversation and it can be a separate negotiation, but it should not be part of the real property purchase negotiations. The other thing about personal property negotiations, if it's in the contract, the lender will not want to see it there. They don't want to have anything that is personal property included in the sale. You'll have to put an addendum together that says there's no value given to the personal property. And if you're buying the personal property outside of escrow, that's a whole separate subject. So when they start talking about personal property in the negotiations, just say no. Just say no to lowball offers. Now, this one's interesting. I won't say exclusively say no. I think there's a time and a place where you can counter a lowball offer and you may actually be able to come to terms, especially if your property's been sitting on the market for a while and you're starting to feel anxious about the time frame. If you get a lowball offer, there are several ways that you could mitigate your price with the price that the buyer wants. That's a whole nother subject for a whole nother video, but just know that if you get a lowball offer, you can say no, but you could also negotiate. But what I will say to just say no for is I'm getting a lot of emails as soon as I put a property on the market. The emails are a very low offer. They are written and drafted on a residential purchase agreement by an investment company, but the person who is drafting the purchase agreement is not a licensed realtor. So it's a low offer from a non-licensed realtor. When I call the phone number and email, I am not able to get in touch with anybody. So just say no to lowball offers that come from an investment company that you can't get in touch with the person who submitted the offer. And oh, by the way, the person who submitted the offer doesn't even have a real estate license. But the caveat, you can negotiate. So if you get a lowball offer and the terms and the price are not acceptable to you, you don't always have to say no. You can actually counter that offer and see if you can come to terms. Number 9, just say no to long closings. Why? Because you don't know what's going to happen over the course of the escrow. The buyer could lose their job. The buyer could lose interest. The buyer could just change their mind for whatever reason. And we're 60 or 90 days into our contract, which means that your home has been off the market for those 60 or 90 days. And then all of a sudden something in the life of the buyer changes and the buyer changes their mind and they cancel escrow. I would recommend nothing longer than a 30 to 45 day escrow. That is a typical time frame. You should be able to get everything done in that time frame. You should be able to get your loan, even if the sale is contingent on the successful sale of the buyer's original property. You should still be able to get that done so long as their property is on the market and so long as their property is already in escrow, which we can talk a little bit more about that as well. But just say no to long escrows. There's too many things that could go wrong, which would hinder the ability to finally close and which would put you in a really poor position because now you're back on the market and you've lost all this market time. Number 10, just say no to unnecessary upgrades or remodel requests. Look, the buyer came into your house. They made an offer based on what they saw. They liked the house well enough to make an offer. Your offer got accepted, and now all of a sudden a buyer is ready to remove their contingencies and they want you to paint things or upgrade countertops or change bathroom fixtures or redo the landscaping. No, you do not have to remodel or redo anything in your home. Just say no to frivolous remodel requests. That said, as a seller, I would highly advise that you get your home inspection up front and that if there's anything that is a health and safety issue, such as smoke detectors and CO detectors not installed, such as a railing on the stairs that is loose. Any health and safety related issues, as well as things that need to be repaired, like an active leak. Nobody wants to buy a home with an active leak, or at least they're not going to pay a premium for a home with an active leak. So take care of things that need to be repaired and health and safety issues, but do not remodel your home. And you can watch my 10 things a seller should not fix prior to putting their home on the market. But don't remodel your home prior to putting your home on the market, and don't remodel your home once you are in escrow and a buyer starts making frivolous requests. Just say no. Number 11 is just say no to offers that do not supply you proof of funds and or a pre-approval letter. You're just wasting your time. If the buyer has not gone through the process to get pre-approved, or they do not have the ability to show you proof of funds if they are making an all-cash offer, say no to their offer. Tell them that they can come back and resubmit their offer once they have that information, but otherwise you're just going to be chasing your tail. You are supposed to present an offer with proof of funds and or a pre-approval letter. Those are very important documents because those are what proves that the buyer will be able to close escrow on your property. And again, we don't want to accept offers that are going to eventually cancel, putting your home back on the property, losing days on market, wasting everybody's time. So just say no to offers that do not supply you with a proof of funds or a pre-approval letter. Number 12, unrealistic contingencies. What are unrealistic contingencies? I would say that in this market, an unrealistic contingency would be a buyer who wants to purchase your home, but they have to sell their home, but their home is not even ready for the market. It's not on the market. We don't know what the market will bear. And so they are making an offer because they love your home, which is so flattering, I know. And sometimes we get wrapped up in this world of flattery. But if their home isn't on the market and they have an extended contingency period, just say no to that offer. See if there's a better offer out there. And in the interim, ask them to get their home on the market. And once their home is on the market, then you can revisit the idea of accepting an offer from them that is contingent on the sale once they've gotten further along in the process. The other thing I would say about contingencies is in this day and age, most sellers are preparing a complete disclosure package, including inspections up front. So if a buyer comes in and a seller has a complete disclosure package prepared up front and they ask for the traditional 17-day contingency period, just say no. Don't say no that they can't have contingencies, because I do believe that it is within a buyer's right to be able to have some time to inspect the property. We're no longer in the pandemic era of 2% mortgage rates where everybody was waiving every single contingency and bidding $250,000 or more above the list price. Now we're in a more even or level playing field. So I would say just say no to long contingencies, but counter the contingencies. If they're asking for 17 days for their loan appraisal and their physical contingencies, I would say that you could reduce those to somewhere around 10 days. For the physical contingencies, maybe you could get away with 7 days, and the loan and appraisal about 10 days, maybe 14. So just say no to unreasonable and long contingency periods. This one I love. Say you're selling a beautiful beach house and you actually do use it as a vacation rental because it's your vacation home that you want to make money on. When you're not using it, the buyer requests to be able to stay in the home for the weekend. And you think, what a great idea, no problem. It's a vacation rental, they'll pay me, and then they'll buy the home. Just say no. You are not renting your home for the weekend to a buyer who is in escrow to purchase the home so that they can have a party at the property. If there's anything that's damaged, remember when you sign that purchase agreement, you are selling the property as is. That also means that if there's anything that is damaged during the escrow process, you are responsible for repairing or fixing that issue prior to the close of escrow. And a buyer will do a verification of property where they walk through the property and confirm that the property is in the same condition that it was when they wrote their offer. So if a buyer asks you to use the home for the weekend, to rent the home, to be able to have a party in the home prior to the close of escrow, just say no. Number 14, and this is really specific to Santa Cruz. I'm sure that other areas also have terms that will require a similar condition, but just say no to contract terms that do not have a cap on the negotiation. What does that mean? In Santa Cruz, we have ordinances such as the sewer lateral ordinance, such as the septic tank ordinance, such as the low flow ordinance. That means that prior to the close of escrow, the way that it's written, now this is all negotiable and it is transferable, but the way that it's written is that prior to the close of escrow, your sewer lateral will pass per the city or county requirements, and your septic system will pass per the environmental health requirements. If they don't, and if it's not negotiated, the seller will be responsible for taking care of those things. So what do I mean by saying no if it doesn't have a cap? Whenever I get an offer, if the offer indicates that a seller will be responsible for those items, I will say the seller will be responsible for those items up to $1,000 or up to $5,000. Whatever the cap is that you and the seller discuss and decide, make sure you say no to contract terms that do not have a cap. Because if you get stuck in the middle of escrow and all of a sudden your septic system fails when it hadn't failed previously, and it's going to be $85,000 to replace, and it's going to take 6 months to go through environmental health and get the proper permits and do all the stuff, you're going to be stuck in a situation where, one, it's going to be very expensive, and two, you might not be able to close that escrow. So make sure that contracted terms have a cap, and just say no if they don't. Okay, number 15, and this is the final thing that a home seller should say no to when negotiating a contract and selling their home, is say no to buyers who are hesitant about signing contracts, closing dates, contingency periods, and providing information that is necessary to make an offer. Why should you say no to this? If the buyer is hesitant about signing contracts, responding to counteroffers, and keeping the momentum going while you are in the initial negotiation period, that buyer most likely will not close escrow. Some of my sellers ask me, Shamika, this offer is almost perfect. Why would you counter them? Why I counter every single offer that comes into me when I am representing my seller is because I want to know up front that that buyer is going to have enough motivation to be able to jump through the hoops that will be required in order to close escrow. And if they lose momentum and lose motivation and are unwilling to continue a conversation when we just supply a very simple counteroffer, I don't want to be in contract with them. I don't want to be stuck in escrow with them. I don't want to have to give them a notice to perform because they're not doing what they're supposed to. And I don't want them to disappear in the middle of the contract where nobody is able to get in touch with them and we can't resell the property because we can't cancel the escrow and we can't find the buyers, and it's just a big headache. So if you feel that the buyers are hesitating at all in the beginning of the negotiations, I would highly recommend you say no to those buyers. That's it. Those are the 15 things that I would recommend all sellers say no or refuse to when selling their home. Again, I'm Shamika Fox, your Santa Cruz real estate expert. If you are looking to buy or sell in the Santa Cruz area, please feel free to hit me up for a complimentary, no obligation consultation. If you're looking to buy or sell outside of the Santa Cruz area, fill out the form in the pinned comments below, and I will connect you with a realtor that will be wonderful and able to represent your needs and your real estate goals. Thank you so much for watching. If you found any value, please hit that like and subscribe button. I will see you on the next one.